Boys and girls, we're going to go over lesson 5, relate decimals and percents. It's pretty much very similar to yesterday's lesson. In example 1, what they want you to do is model 0.42 or 42 hundredths and write it as a percent. Okay, now there's two ways you can write it. You can write it with the word form 42 and spelling out percent, or writing it with the percent symbol. Okay, now remember from yesterday's lesson, in order to show it shaded, you would have to shade 4 columns up and down, and then just 2 singles on the 5th column to show 4 tens and 2 to make 42. Now down here in example 2, they're basically just showing you that percents are out of 100, like they show you here, which we basically talked about, I believe it was in yesterday's video. So that's gonna go into another part of the lesson that we have to go over. So always remember that percents are out of 100, okay? With that being said, let's go into this part of the lesson where it's on your own. You're gonna have to write the decimals as percents and the percents as decimals. You're gonna have to do both, okay? So the first thing I want to go over with you is writing these decimals as percents. Okay, now when you're given 30 hundredths, remember that percents are out of 100. So when you read the decimal, you're going to read it as 30 hundredths. So you're going to interpret it as 30%. So we'll write 30% for that one. This decimal is read as 8 hundredths. Remember that the first digit is a tenth. This one would be the hundredth. So when we read this particular decimal, we will read it as 8 hundredths because the 8 is the last number in the decimal and it's in the hundredths place. So to write the percent when decimals look like this, you just write 8%. Okay, because it's already 8 hundredths, so it's 8 out of 100, 8%. Now, this one, when you read this decimal is 7/10. Now, in order to write this as a percent, we would have to make 7/10, okay, equal to 100. And how do you do that? We're gonna make an equivalent fraction, okay? So I have to make it out of 100. Eventually, you won't have to do this once you get the hang of it, okay? Now, remember when we added and subtracted fractions, we would find the common denominator and then do the equivalent fractions. So from 10 to 100, we would have to multiply it by 10. And whatever you do to the denominator, you do to your numerator. So if the denominator is times 10, the numerator is also times 10, which would be 70. Okay? Now, you can rewrite this fraction as 0.70, and then you can write it as your percent of 70%. Okay, now 7/10 is equal to 70 hundredths. Okay, they pretty much they're equal to one another. So when you see this type of fraction, eventually you won't have to do this. You'll just know that you have to turn 7/10 into 70 hundredths, and then your percent is 70%. Okay, now down here, the second part that they wanted is for you to write the percents as decimals. Okay, so when you have 9%, it's a single digit, you're gonna have to write this as a decimal. We're gonna write it as, 0.09 to represent 9% or 9 out of 100. 13% would be written as 0.13 because it's 13 hundredths or 13%. Okay, that's pretty much the lesson for the day. If you have any further questions, just reach out to me via Remind or send me an email, and I will gladly help you out. Okay, have a great day, guys.